Ken Carson just released his newest snippet, Freestyle 3, on his extended version of his newest album, X. And it's been getting a lot of hate, which I think is really unwarranted because a lot of these people are hating because it doesn't sound as good as the snippet, which I think is a really stupid thing because some of these snippets are super popular beforehand and they get super popular. And then people just like the snippet part. And then once they actually come out, mixed and mastered right, and they sound good, then people start hating on them because they don't sound as perfect as they did when they actually were a snippet, which sounds really stupid to me. Here's one of Ken's shows where he plays Freestyle 3, and you can see everyone already knows the snippet and the song actually, so it is really funny because all these songs get so popular and people love that version, and then when they get this actual version, they don't like it as much. Here's one tweet that says, Freestyle 3 gotta be the biggest fumble of all time. Ken deadass needs to fire his sound engineer. This song is borderline unlistenable, which is kind of crazy to me because I feel like this song isn't that good, but I'm not really a big Ken Carson fan, and I feel like the mix is bad, but you can't really just rely on these snippets to be the exact replication of the song, especially when these songs come out that are already leaked and already have snippets and already have a kind of a fan base behind them when they actually release, and they don't sound perfect. Then all these fans go crazy and they're like, oh no, it doesn't sound exactly like it did in the snippet. Here's another 3 Ken fans that were really pissed off about Freestyle 3. They said the beat drop on Freestyle 3 was possibly the most disappointed I've ever been in a song, which is really weird to me, but I do get it because the beat drop in Freestyle 3 was kind of its main thing, especially in the snippet, like my weed came in the back. And then I feel like the mix was a little weird, but I will say it's just because all these people listen to the snippet and then they really get excited and expect it to sound exactly like that when those snippets are recorded in cars or recorded not places where it's studio quality. And it sounds a lot different too when you actually play them on headphones or something else, or you just play them out loud, because the sound quality from the car or whatever else it was recorded in first, it just doesn't sound the same when you're playing it out of headphones or like your phone. I've also heard this new term pop up called snippet syndrome, where all these people say the snippets always sound better. Here's a comment from a video with a bunch of viral snippets versus the actual songs, kind of like the Polo G Rap Star and like Miss the Rage by Playboi Carti, and everyone always says the snippets always sound better. It's because you've listened to them and you're like, oh my god, this song's so good, and then when it comes out in the actual studio quality, it doesn't sound the same, it doesn't give you the same vibe, and once you've already listened to these songs over and over again, it doesn't have the same feel you get when you've listened to them just 1 or 2 times and you're like, oh my god, this is so good. It's kind of the same thing with leaked songs. The songs leak and you play them, 100 times on SoundCloud or on YouTube where the leaks actually are, but then when they get on Spotify and they're like actually out there, they don't sound as good because they don't have that, original charm they had when you would only listen to them 1 or 2 times and you're like, this is the best song I've ever listened to. Here's someone on Twitter that said the freestyle mix isn't good because you have snippet syndrome and you're expecting the bass to penetrate your ears to a maximum effect. I promise you the mix was fine. Also, this is another thing when you're trying to get this song out to as many people as possible. You can't have just the bass, destroying your earlobes and doing all that when you're trying to get the most people to listen to your song. Especially when Ken is going kind of viral on TikTok for Freestyle 3. There needs to be more and more people that can listen to it, and when you have the bass, penetrating your ears and kind of destroying your eardrums, that's not going to happen. I also think this is kind of a problem because the mixing isn't even that bad and it's by a professional engineer. Like, all these people that are commenting on Twitter about it are people that actually haven't listened or haven't been able to professionally engineer like the people that are engineering Freestyle 3. Like, these people don't know how to mix as well as some of these other guys. And even though the mix might not sound as good or might not sound as good with the bass, it will actually be better for the majority of people. So it does work for more people than just them. I think a lot of this does fall on Playboi Carti and the label though, because they're so secretive and they don't have much music coming out from Ken and Lone. this does kind of make these snippets that they do put out that sound really good, they go a lot more viral, and then when the songs actually come out, they don't sound the same, and then these fans that have grasped on to Freestyle 3 as like, oh my god, it's the holy grail of Ken snippets, then they're like, oh my god, it's not as good as it sounds. And it's kind of a big thing with Cardi. You can see on like Pain 1993, the song he had with Drake, everyone was saying that was such a good snippet, and then when it came out, it just wasn't as good. One of the most hyped snippets of all time was Miss the Rage. And when it actually came out, a lot of people said that didn't sound as good as like maybe the Mario Judah version, which is crazy to me because Mario Judah, was never actually on the song. And then his just remix did sound, it was pretty good, but the beat really carried this one, and I think with any artist on it, it still would have sounded good. And all these people were slandering it because the snippet sounded so much better, but the snippet literally was just the beat, basically. So all these people got so hyped up for the beat, and the beat still sounded so good on the actual song. So I don't know why all these people are like snippet soldiers and, will start hating on the song when it actually comes out, when they actually love the snippet, which is so stupid to me because the songs don't sound that much worse than the snippet, and sometimes they even sound a lot better than the snippet. So it's like you finally get this song that you wanted to come out for so long, and then now you're hating on it because it doesn't sound the perfect way you thought it would when it was a snippet, which is just such a crazy feeling to me. This kind of reminds me of the whole lot of Red situation, where all these people were such big Cardi fans before, and then Cardi comes out with something that's slightly different to what they expected from him, and then they just turned on him and they're saying whole lot of ass, and then whole lot of Red became such a cult album as time went on, even though in my opinion it is still a great album and it was a good album from the jump. It's not an amazing album, and all these people meat write it so hard now when they didn't even like it at all when it actually came out, which is just so weird to me. I feel like music has some of the worst takes ever because all these people, they make these super rash decisions and takes, and they post on Twitter, they're like, oh my god, this album is so bad when it comes out, but then as time goes on, they start liking the songs more and more. They're like, oh my god, this is the best album ever. And I feel like music just has, some of the most, rash takes, and they don't actually try and think about listening to the album more and more instead of taking these super, like, either this is the best album ever or this is the worst album ever. You just have to listen to the album a couple times to really get that feeling. Maybe on the first listen you're like, oh my god, this is really good, or you don't listen to it again. But if it's an artist you like, you really, I feel like, have to take a lot of time to listen and digest those lyrics and digest the actual sound that they're coming out with, especially if they're taking like a new spin on a sound, like I feel like Cardi did with Whole Lotta Red, where he took a sound that was already pretty popular and he kind of switched it into this new and super influential sound that's kind of inspired people like Destroy Lonely and Ken Carson, and now they're developing their own little sound based off of Cardi's sound he started with Whole Lotta Red and that whole era. Either way though, I think this whole Ken hating on Freestyle 3 is really stupid to me, and I hope you guys just listen to Ken's Freestyle 3 and you think of it for yourself and you don't fall into this super hive mind style of thinking that music has really grown into.